Bards have a certain reputation in D&D, especially in the 5th edition. Mechanically, they're considered by some to be one of the strongest classes, but more often than not, they fall into the trope of seductive, deviant rascals. Historically, though, bards are storytellers and musicians and bikes and artists. All art is critically important to developing the cultures found in any civilization. This, and more about bards, is what we'll go over in today's episode of A Bountiful World. So, let's dive into some of the mechanics that point where bards can end up narratively. I'll keep a list of important points down in the bottom. We could first take a look at subclasses. Bards have 7 between the main series of books. What I find most interesting about the subclasses for bards is the progression. We can see that the player's handbook subclasses, the College of Lore and the College of Valor, have explicit ties to music or speaking in general. Valor bards keep alive the myth and the legend of heroes, and their 14th level ability, Battle Mage, helps keep that narrative straight. They feel like that classic bard, the one that regales people of tales of old and old heroes. Lore bards focus less on heroes and more on speeches and folk songs that mix in history and culture. But this is key. As we move through the years and more subclasses are released, we see that bards are not about music, but about art in general. Xanathar's Guide has the College of Glamour, and we can see in the 3rd level ability, Enthralling Performance, it specifically mentions dancing, a non-auditory art style. The College of Swords talks about knife throwing and sword swallowing and mock combat, all ways to turn these deadly weapons into a really delicate art form. My favorite edition from Mythic Odysseys of Theros was the Eloquence Bard, because we now have a focus on motivational speaking as an art. Bards in D&D are about art. I left out 2 of the 7 subclasses in that last section because I feel they'll help support this next point much better. It's that bards need society. An easy thing to do that I've fallen into a few times as a DM or even as a player is to create an NPC or a PC that is just completely removed from society. It can work in some instances. Not every adventurer needs to have ties to a great village. Some are just in it for the thrill of adventure. But bards cannot operate in that way, which I think makes them a little intimidating to write. Let's go through an example with the College of Whispers. Bards in this college are sly and manipulative. They prey on people who need affection or attention, and they can be incredibly intimidating with their words. They need a society to function. With no people, there's no social ladder to climb. No people to manipulate, nowhere to move. The College of Creation is similar. This is the newest Bard subclass, and it was initially a little confusing to me, but I think I understand it now, and I love it for what it is. Many classes in D&D have the Nature subclass, and I think this is the Bard's answer to that. It's a lore-rich subclass that focuses on cultural heritage and ties to the infinite cosmos. It requires myth and legend and deep-rooted societies to function at its most elevated state. It's the art of passing down tradition. Bards need society. Finally, to the 3rd important point, art is magical. We see it throughout core bard features and also the subclasses, and it's something to keep in mind while world building. These art forms aren't just influential. They harness the magic of the universe that already exists or create their own magical effects. In a world where magic seems to be weaponized, you can find magical art kind of charming and elegant, but also deadly. It makes magic feel weird and not completely understood. Definitely a feeling that's difficult to capture, but an important part that the bard plays. Wizards work under the confines of rules with math and equations to produce their spells. Warlocks create bargains with the things from beyond. But bards feel their spells. They feel their magic. It's not scientific or diplomatic, it's just art. So what can a bard look like now that we have our 3 points in mind? One example could be a court jester in the College of Whispers, close to the nobles and learning their secrets and plans. No one expects the court jester to give secrets to the enemy. He's just a funny man, right? Of course, there can be bards that provide exposition in your stories. Some sort of tale of an ancient trial that exists in the Red Desert told melodically through a poem. Or how about those who travel for the joy of others? Small villages with barely anything to do probably rejoice the day that a bard comes and dances with the children and tells stories in the tavern at night. I'd love to hear some of your ideas down in the comments too. Thanks for watching this episode of A Bountiful World. We release themed homebrew packs bi-weekly on Patreon if you want to check us out, link in the description, and I'll see you next time.